Amen. Amen. I'm just doing a one-time sermon. I was going to start this questions thing this week, and this thing just kept brewing and brewing and brewing, and I was like, heck no, I'm just going to do it. Um, I honestly wish I could preach this sermon in every middle school and high school and college and to everybody, because I think it is really, really important. What we're going to talk about today is identity. We're going to talk about how we were named and why this is a big deal and how this works in our lives and the labels that we form and so many different things. How we view ourselves is a really big deal, right? How we talk about ourselves is a really big deal. And we can get in our heads about all of it. I'm going to warn you, I'm going to brace you right now. I had it typed up. Normally I have about 7 to 8 pages, not 6, 7 teenagers, but 7 to 8 pages of typed up notes. This week was 11, so I got to talk real fast, or we're going to be here till 3 o'clock in this kickoff. No? Okay. So we won't be, trust me. Gosh, nobody wants to go to that church. I remember you want to hear a story? This is hilarious. The first pastor job I ever had was in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And I was from Minnesota, so land of the Vikings, like they're Vikings fans, but they're not Packer fans. You know what I mean? And I remember distinctly the second week I was there, we got there right at like September-ish time, so it was right on the kickoff. And I remember we all stood for prayer at the end of it. So our pastor was doing like the old school altar calls, all this stuff. Legitimately, 20 to 30 people at 11:30 walked out, just got up and walked out of service. They're like, I got a barbecue to go to. They just dipped because it was open. It was like football time. I was like, dude, this is a different ballgame. He's like, yeah, if we're not out by 11:25, people just leave. I'm like, oh, I had no idea that was a real thing. So that's a real thing in Wisconsin land. Like, it is a real thing. We love our Packers, and we actually have a shot. Thank you, Jerry Jones. So, anyways, Galatians chapter 4, verses 7 talks about how we are no longer slaves. We are co-heirs of thrones with Christ. We are sons and daughters. But here's what happens. We have this idea that we are just religious, spiritual slaves, and we're just robots. And that is not the case. God isn't here. We are not robots. He is not this puppet with strings attached, just directing our lives, doing whatever we tell him, whatever he tells us to do. We are his kids. And that is such a different mentality and a different attitude altogether. And what happens is when we do this, our performance then dictates what we think of ourselves. And here's how I want to put this today. The approval of others versus my performance equals my self-worth, my self-image, and my identity. Right, when we look at our lives and then we got the approval of other people think about us, the approval of others, it can be parents, it can be friends, it can be big picture society, plus our performance, how we do, then is how our self-worth, our image, and our identity comes to be about. I'm really wishing that I had good handwriting right now, you know what I mean? So hang with me. Because here's how I do things. I'll give you guys an inkling. I'll study for 20, 25 minutes, and I have like handwritten notes. I cross stuff off and put things in the margins, right? Type this up, all this different stuff. Put this on the screen, all this. It's a mess. So then when I go type it up, I make it all nice and neat and legible, right? And all this different stuff. So we're gonna walk through this thing when I can't even read my own handwriting. I should have been a doctor. I would have made more money. You guys can just go home right now. We could just start over next week. Oh gosh. But here's what happens. We have this idea that if we don't perform enough, people aren't going to like us. And our self-worth and our value goes down the drain. If our bank account doesn't reach a certain number, she's not going to stay with me. Or whatever it may be. And this produces fear, and fear produces rejection, fear produces all these different thoughts in our heads. And what the coolest thing about this, though, but what we don't do so much is we don't go to the gospel, because the gospel is the ultimate rebuttal for what called society ends up teaching us. And we all have this. We all have different influences that pull us in different directions. So I want to look at what self-image is and what self-worth is, and kind of combine these two to show us our identity. Our self-image of ourselves is the core of who we are. It is our foundation. No matter the role you're playing, you can be a kid, you can be a child, you can be a sibling, a teacher, a parent, single, married, grandparent, whatever that looks like. Our self-image is the core of who we are. Our self-worth is then what makes us feel confident, worthy, value. And it's a combination of our self-worth and our image that makes up our identity. And every culture has a different, unique ways of forming all of these. All of these. Our culture helps form all of this. But I want you to see before we get started, because the rest of it is going to kind of be really practical stuff. This is how Jesus talks to us and calls us. John chapter 10, verses 1 through 5, and I'm going to summarize it, but I think it's going to be on the screen behind me. He essentially says this. He essentially says, I'm your shepherd, your sheep. You know me by how I talk to you. You know me by my voice, by the names that I call you. If you ever studied this, it actually would say that the best shepherds would name their sheep by name. But just like we name dogs, like right, if you have a dog, a cat, they have real names, and they answer to those names. The best shepherds would name his sheep, and they would know them by his voice. And what Jesus is trying to teach us is that he's a shepherd and we're sheep. Now, on the outside, we're like, that's not that big of a deal. We're sheep, we're pets, cool. No, you don't understand. This is not like a compliment. Sheep are dumb. Sheep are the dumbest things ever, right? They literally get lost all over the place. That's why they need a shepherd. They would die without the shepherd. They wouldn't eat. They'd get lost. They'd like walk into the ocean and just they just keep walking and just drown. Like they are the dumbest things. Like they are the dumbest animals you can possibly imagine. So Jesus, in one of his teachings, is legitimately calling all human beings, you guys are a bunch of idiots. You need me to live. We don't like this. How dare you tell a teenager they're an idiot? Well, you're talking to adults too. Like, okay, don't tell me I'm dumb. I'm like, we don't like to be put down in any stretch of the imagination. And Jesus is telling me, though, he's like, this is how you know me. I call you by name. You need me. And we have this idea that we don't need anybody. We don't like to be told by anybody, even if it means God himself. So we have this idea, and cultures always shape stuff. And so we used to be shaped by our communities, and now we're shaped a little bit more individually. Here's what I mean. You would find your purpose, your meaning, your value in a community, in a relationship. You'd find your purpose in being a really great mom, a really great wife, a really great dad, a really great husband. The community, the relationship, that's where our purpose, our meaning was found. Now it's a way more individual. It's about going after my dreams and my goals and following my heart and my gut and my feelings. So things have shifted a lot. It's about digging deep. Sociologists call this expressive individualism. And this is the type of culture and society that we are currently living in. Let me dig a little deeper for you. It used to be, okay, and you still find pockets of this, it's just not the majority anymore, where community would be this. It would be my dad, my grandpa, my great-grandpa owned a farm. So guess what I'm going to do? Own the farm. I'm going to grow up and run the farm because I find meaning and culture in the community. Not necessarily a bad thing, but that's just where you found your meaning in. Right? It's also where we see soldiers do this a lot. They'll run into the line of fire because to protect the brotherhood was more important than themselves. Community is the highest of honor. Now it is way more individualized. It's about digging deep and finding your feelings and going after what you truly want to feel in your life. And this isn't an American thing. This is a Western world, modern world thing. So you find this in any first world country. This is what life is going to be like more than anything else. Because I'm really not trying to villainize it. Because there's good things and bad things, right? I'm really, really glad that we've come such a long ways that just because your grandparents believe something doesn't mean you have to believe it. But that would be the community idea behind it. Well, my great-grandparents went to this church, so my grandparents went to this church, so I have to go to this church, so my kids have to do this. We see this sometimes in church world. We see this, right? And so there's good things with this individualized culture that we currently live in. Like, hey, I can actually choose certain things. It's a great thing, right? So it's not all bad by any stretch of the imagination. But what I want to do is I want to find 5 reasons. We're going to look at 5 different reasons why expressive individualism does not work for our lives. And as you walk through this, you're going to see how horrible and how bad it is for us to follow my own feelings. Because I don't know if you know this, my feelings aren't always pointing me in the right directions. First one is this. It's incoherent and it's confusing. Our deepest feelings are not consistent. Right? We can have 2 of our deep feelings and they're completely opposed to one another. We want to retire and we want the $100,000 boat. See? Completely opposed to one another. We want to save, but we want to spend $100 on the lottery ticket. Anybody win last night? No, you didn't. Nobody in Wisconsin. But 2 people did, so good for them. Government got a really big paycheck, by the way. Anyways. They're incoherent and they're confusing. And it's so hard to know what to follow and when to follow. But our deepest, darkest feelings are incoherent. They're incoherent. The second thing is this. They're unstable. They're unstable. Lewis Sneed said this. Lewis Sneed was an old-time author. He's now dead. R.I.P. But he wrote a lot about forgiveness. And he actually said this. He goes, my wife was married to 5 different men. He goes, except they were all me. He said it, not me. Right? He was just this idea, though, that what? We are always changing. We are always unstable. Right? There is nothing. Right? Me and my wife have known each other for 20 years. We are not close to the same people we were when we were 19. There's parts of us that still drive us crazy the same way, but there's a whole lot of other stuff that changes along the ways. Because we are unstable people. We're not stable. Right? We're not stable, no matter how you want to look at this. All right, so then they ask this guy. They go, well, if you're unstable and all this stuff was crazy, how'd you guys stay together? And he said this. He goes, well, we made a vow. He goes, we made a vow between each other and God to stay together. And that vow overrode any feelings that we may have had along the way. So we didn't follow our feelings because our feelings were unstable. We followed a vow that was much deeper and more meaningful than anything else. And so when we struggled with our feelings, we went back to the vow that we said. And we said we were going to love and cherish each other for as long as we both shall live. And that love means that we're going to serve each other. And so we said, no matter what happens, we're going to continue to serve each other. When I don't want to, I'm going to, because that's the vow and the commitment that I made. If we follow our feelings, by the way, dishes would never get done, the laundry would never get done, your house would look like trash, complete trash. Now, we're more trash than what it looks like right now. Right? I did 8 loads of laundry last night. I folded 8 loads of laundry. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of laundry that didn't get folded. I'm like, gosh dang it. Right? So you turn on a couple of Jack Ryan shows and you fold 8 loads of freaking laundry. Like, it's just what you do. I didn't want to do it, but you do it. Because the vow and the commitment that you make is deeper than the unstable feelings that you have. We always change, by the way. This is with young people, it changes constantly. In middle school, you look back on who you were in elementary school, and you're like, oh my gosh, I was like that when I was 8? Yup. Right? When you're in high school, you look back at what you were like in 7th grade, and you're like, I wore what? Yup. Right? You're going to be 19 and look back at what you were when you were 15, and you were like, I cannot believe you let me out of the house like that. We do the same thing as adults. Right? When you're 65, you look back at the stuff when you're 40, and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was smart. No. Right? Because we do it right now. Like, I can't believe I pulled some stuff when I was 22. Oof, right? Like, we're unstable beings. We're unstable. We're always changing. Our feelings are evolving, so they cannot be the core of how we find our identity. Our identity, even looking deep inside, is always going to be incoherent and unstable. The third one is this: it's an illusion. The third one is an illusion. If our feelings compete with one another. And when we find them and we let one out, it always depends on just who wins. Picture this. Here's a guy. I'm a guy, so we'll talk about guys. Picture 1,200 years ago. You have a guy, he's got two really big feelings that are incompatible with each other. This first one, we'll say it's aggression. He's a warrior. He's strong. He is, he is all that. He loves to bash another dude's head in. But back in the day, dude, that's what you're looking for. All you ladies are like, I don't want someone that's angry and aggressive. Yeah, you did. Heck yeah, you did. You wanted somebody that no matter what, there was somebody on my property. Oh, dude, he's about to get his throat slit. Without questions asked. It's 1,200 years ago. You're like, dude was on my property. Dude got slit. He's done. Cool. Like, you wanted that guy to protect you. You wanted him rough around the edges. You wanted that. That's 1,200 years ago. That's one emotion. The other emotion, same-sex identity. 1,200 years ago, that dude was like, those thoughts, those feelings, that's getting pushed down as far as can be, and you're going to chop that off with, why? Because that wasn't morally acceptable. That wasn't okay culturally, especially for a warrior. Nope. Not a chance on God's green earth is that ever coming out. I'm going to have as many kids as possible just to prove, like, however you want to look at it, right? That is getting pushed away, pushed down. That is not ever going to be okay 1,200 years ago. Modern day, you take the aggressive guy, you know what he's being told? Dude, you want to beat somebody's head in? That's not okay. You should probably get some therapy. Why? Women are like, you're too mad, you're too angry all the time. You need to talk about and figure those feelings and emotions out. Why are you so mad all the time? I don't like that. No. Here's some meds. That's just what would happen in our society. And then the other view, the same-sex identity, that one would get pushed to the forefront. That's what was going to get promoted because that would be heroic. You found yourself. You found your true calling. Doesn't matter if you're a 30-year-old, 2 kids or not. That's truly who you are. Because society now has elevated one over the other one. Both cultures are lying to that guy. Because it has nothing to do with his feelings or emotions. It had to do with what culture at that time period said was morally acceptable. And culture can never determine morality. Ever. Under any circumstances. Just because one guy existed at one point in time, one was okay and one wasn't. That's not how this works. Morality has been the same for all time. All time. It's always been the same, and it always will. It's just that one guy was born 1,200 years ago, and one guy was born modern times. And so one set of emotions is going to be elevated at one point, and the other set of emotions is going to be elevated at a different time period. That's the only difference. So if you think that because of all this is the emotions that are coming out, it's an illusion. It is not you controlling it. It is society controlling you. It's an illusion, depending on when you and I were born. It's an illusion. Both cultures are lying. You know, it's a grid. Right? Take a grid, bunch of little boxes, and it all just depends on what the culture of the day says is okay to come up through the morally acceptable grid. And culture determines what set of emotions, feelings that when we dig down deep, we're like, what about this? And what about this? And what about this that we let out? It's an illusion. It all just depends on when and how you live. It's an illusion. So our deepest emotions are incoherent, they're unstable, and it's an illusion. The fourth one is this: it's crushing. It's crushing. Our emotions, our identity issues, our self-esteem, our self-worth, it's crushing. there's this pressure to find your identity. Now, past cultures would have suffocated the dream because no matter what, you would have sacrificed your dreams, your goals, your personal ambitions for the betterment of the community or the family or the surroundings, whatever it may be. Like, nope, I'm not going to do it because it's better for this. And some of us may look at it and go, that's really bad. Okay, but there's also some benefits to that. What do you mean? Well, can you imagine being like, right, 16? You don't have to worry ever about what your career is. Doesn't sound too shabby. You know where you're going to live. You know how it's going to play itself out. There is no pressure. Keeping up with the Joneses really isn't nearly as big of a deal. College scores, test scores, all this type of stuff. Why? Because you have it all planned out for the betterment of the community. Now, it's not all positive either, but there is a pressure now. Now, kids are trying to figure out what they are when they're 12, 13 years old in class, and they're like, dude, I'm still trying to, like, right? The same time period, you're like, can you just brush your teeth every day? They're like, what are you going to do for the next 55 years? Right? And if you write it down in some form in 7th grade that you want to be an astronaut, now you have to stick to that. And there's this pressure that's built up like, you have to. And it can be crushing. It can be crushing to people. It's crazy. Harold Abrams, he was a old-time sprinter. Any movie buffs? Oh. Anybody ever watched the old movie Chariots of Fire? It's an old-time movie. He was there. That's what the movie was about. He said this to his girl. He said this. He goes, when that gun goes off, I have 10 seconds to justify my existence. His whole life was based around whether or not I can perform this action. And it doesn't have to be sprinting, right? It can be like, well, I'm now going to be a plumber. And so you have to have the biggest plumbing business in the city. Well, if I'm not a plumber, now what? If I don't take, and by the way, the community side of this can be the same thing, because if your dad was a plumber, now you have to take your dad's business over. But what if you don't really like to do it? What if you hate plumbing? What if you want to do electrician? Oh, I don't know if they fight or not, but like, you know what I mean? Like, what happens if you don't want to do it? There's this pressure of having to do it. It's crushing. It's crushing. Following our feelings to find our identity may sound good or cool or be popular for a season, but it can come crashing down in a heartbeat. Put whatever label you want into that. Put whatever label you want. It's going to crush you. If you make your identity about a label that you give yourself by following your feelings, it's going to crush you. It's going to crush you. Well, I'm a cool parent. What happens when you actually have to discipline? And that goes out the window. Well, I won't. Somebody else will. Good luck with that. That's even worse. I'm a sports mom. What happens if your kid doesn't like sports? Well, I'll become a band mom. Well, what happens if your kid doesn't like band? I don't like. What happens when your kid moves out of the house? Then what? You're just going to be a disaster when you hit 45 because your kid's gone? You going to follow him to school too? Go live in the dorms with him? That'll work out real well. Like, we kind of laugh, but this is what we do. Our identity is wrapped up in labels that we give ourselves. And the next thing you know, those labels go away and we don't know what to do with ourselves because we followed our feelings. I just felt so good for a moment, but then it came crashing down. Because you gave yourself a label. You did it. Whatever it is, these feelings are incoherent. They're unstable. It's an illusion. And it can be crushing to your real life. The fifth thing is this, it is excluding. C.S. Lewis said this in his book, Mere Christianity. I quoted this a couple weeks ago too. He said this, we're not proud of having money, just more money than the next person. Y'all, that's true. We don't really care how smart we are. We just want to be smarter than the person sitting next to us in class. What'd you get on the test? You got a 92? I got a 93. And I'm over here like, oh, I got a 67. You know? Like, I wasn't that bad of a kid, a student. Actually got solid grades for being a bonehead. But this is what we do. Do we really care? No. I actually had a parent say this. This is really sad. I had a mom tell me this one time. She goes, well, I'm a special needs mom. Okay. One of your 4 kids is special needs. You just excluded your other 3 kids. I don't know if she meant it, I don't know if she realized it or not, but that's exactly what she was doing. Right? You're excluding your other 3 kids to prop up your own self-esteem. Crazy psycho ambitions. See, it's not about being smart or having more money. It's about being smart or having more money than the next guy. We see this all the time. How many times do you see somebody who, one of your friends gets a car, and they get a new car? Somebody else buys a new house. They go buy a new house. Happens all the time. But there's always somebody better. Again, this will eventually come crashing down. You're a really great flutist. Right? You're the greatest flutist in Southwest Wisconsin. So you decide to go to New York City. And you're there and you're doing all the tourist things, a week after moving in. You find yourself at Penn Station. And there's some dude that's got his box, his flutist, whatever, floatus container. I don't even know what you call the things. Okay, shows how much I know. I should definitely use a different analogy to make myself sound smarter. Right, he's just there playing away. And you realize that this dude playing at Penn Station is 100 times better than you ever were. And here he is just begging for money, and you thought you were going to get into some crazy school. There's always somebody better. There's always somebody smarter. And here's what we have to find. Any identity that is achieved rather than received is excluding. Any identity that is achieved rather than received is excluding. You just feel better about yourself in the moment because you think you're better than somebody else. And it's that comparison game that will ultimately lose every single time. So what does last? What is healthy? What is whole? The only way to do this is to have somebody outside of me name me. If I'm trying to name myself, if I'm following some kind of feelings or emotions that I have, it's going to be a really rough life for me. Because I can't trust my own feelings. What do we do? Because here's what we do when this happens. And we find this all the time with adults. And it's interesting, the more I'm around adults, I realize that we're just been teenagers for the last 35 years. Because here's what we do. We'll just speak to adults. What we'll do is if one group of people don't like our decisions or feelings or emotions and things that we do, we'll just find another group that does validate our decisions and emotions and feelings. We exchange one set of teenagers for another, or cheerleaders for another set of cheerleaders. And it's really easy. And the reason why I'm making sure we talk about adults, because this is really easy to go, well, that's a 16-year-old girl thing. 16-year-old girls just do that. They get mad at their friends, and this person can't be friends, and that person can't be friends with them. So this whole group is 6, and now we're not friends with this group, and you're just going over here. And this is just, and we assume that it stops in high school. You would assume wrong. This is what happens all the time. My family doesn't like my decisions I'm making. My spouse doesn't like it. You know what? He doesn't support me anymore. I'm going to go find another one. Good luck. She's not nice enough to me. She hasn't, in a while. I'm going to find another one. I can pay for that. Good luck. That's a real conversations I get to do with people. We exchange one set of cheerleaders for another set of cheerleaders, all based off of our feelings and emotions that fool us and crush us. And I understand it in some aspect because we are a society and social people that needs and strives for affirmation. I've never had one person be like, man, you know what? I get too many compliments in life. People around me are like, dude, my family is just too nice to me. My spouse, yeah, they're just way too nice. Let me tell you. Too kind. Too kind. Right? No guy has ever been like, dude, my wife, yeah, dude, she flirts with me way too hard. Like, just back, like, never happens. Never happens. Because there is this craving side of us that needs to be found worthy, that needs value. But if it comes from a parent, a professor, a boss, a friend, a company, a pastor, your bank account, eventually it's going to leave you empty because it's not stable. That's not stable. Think of it this way. Is there a person you'd like to meet? Like in life? Okay, teenage girls would be like Taylor Swift. Maybe teenage boys would be like Mr. Beast, right? Maybe if you really like athletes, it'd be like Tom Brady, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Yeah. Maybe if you like politics, you'd be like, man, President Obama would be kind of cool. President Trump would be kind of cool. I don't know, like maybe if you like movies, you'd be like Tom Cruise, George Clooney, right? I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe maybe if you like do comedies, you'd be like Adam Sandler or whatever. Like I don't know. Okay, if there's somebody you would meet and you would just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just got to shake so and so's hand. I'm never washing this hand ever again in my life. That kind of deal. Now let's raise it a bar. Not just you get to meet this person, whoever it could be, but they say, hey, I know you. You're so and so. And they acted like they were special because they got to meet you. And they didn't just say, I know your name, I know who you are. Can we become like best friends? You want to like become neighbors? And you want to go like red carpet events? You want to do all this stuff with me? Like Mr. Beast, like, you want to help me host my show? Does he have a show? Like, but you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, like, right? Like, you want to come hang out at the White House? House in the Hamptons? Like, whatever that looks like. You want to come? You want to live at Mar-a-Lago for a while? I got room. Yeah, you do. Like, I almost said some really bad stuff. Anyways, this is bad. Sometimes your thoughts get the best of you. See, can't trust your thoughts. But we have these ideas. Here's what's awesome, though. The God of the universe that we just spent about 2 months talking about his characteristics and who he is, not only says, I want to spend time with you, but I named you. I call you by name. And that's how you know my voice is because we're so close that when I say, hey, you know my name. So when he says, I'm your shepherd and you're my sheep, it's not a bad thing. He's like, I'm your shepherd. I'm here to give you life. This is what I'm here for. Because you are now my children. That's a lot bigger of a deal than anybody on earth that's going to live to be 80 years old and die like the rest of us. Ish. Right? Like, but wouldn't we freak out? If you're like, yo, Tom Cruise invited me to the next, like, whatever. I got to be on the red carpet of the next Mission Impossible, if there is one. There's been 14 of them. I'm sure there's 15. Like, people be freaking out. I'm going to the White House. Na, 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 na. Whatever he does, right? Like, people be freaking out. But the God of the universe says, I've called you by name, and you are heirs. You are my sons, and you are my children. I want to have a relationship with you. That's when our identity's been given to us. It's been that's how you've been formed. That's what changes you. Because it wasn't anything that you achieved. It was something that you received. And until our identity comes from something a gift is something that we receive, we're always going to be chasing something. John chapter 10, verse 3 and verses 14 and 15 go on to explain it even more. That becomes a stable foundation for identity that is only possible found through him. Because it's not based on our performance. And it doesn't waver. Everything else Everything else wavers, not him. And he says, I am this. That's who he is. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It is not by anything that you ever achieved. You are adopted into the family. I just remembered I have a Bible sitting up here. 1 Peter. Don't laugh at me. I'll kick you out of church. I won't. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 10. Told you should have went home right when this thing started. Says this. Once you had no identity as a people, now you are God's people. Once you received no mercy, now you have received God's mercy. Once you were just lost and you had no identity, then God said, I'm your shepherd. Once you had no idea, you're just floating with the wind. Whatever feelings or emotions came up that day, like, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to do this, and now I'm this, and now I'm this. You can't just choose these things. That's not how this works. God said your identity. God's claimed your identity. You are now God's people. He says, this is what he wants to do for you. This is what he wants to do for you. The question is, will we allow him to do it? The question is, will we allow him to do it? One quick more story / illustration. Teenagers are pretty emotional people, right? If you don't have them, just wait. If you had them, give me some advice. We'll meet later. Here's how I think of identity. Like a deck of cards. And here's what I mean. You can be a Christian and struggle with identity. In this deck of cards, God's got a couple of these cards in there. And he's in there. He's like, you love them. But your identity is found in how many people like your Instagram post. Or you freak out if you get left open on Snapchat. By the way, that is the ultimate dig now for teenagers. Or for kids who have Snapchat. By the way, don't give your kids Snapchat. Don't do it. Don't give your elementary school kids cell phones. Don't do it. Anyways, I'll stop. It's not a sermon on parenting. Don't be dumb. And what happens is this: is you get, say somebody gets left unread, unopened. I don't know what they call it. All hell breaks loose in life. Oh my gosh, they didn't talk to me. This, that, all this stuff. What you freak out about, what you get worked up about, shows what's at the top of the deck of cards. Doesn't mean you don't love Jesus. Doesn't mean you're not saved. Doesn't mean you're one of kids that's in the deck. But he's just not at the top of the deck. What you're getting worked up about in life is what's at the top of the deck. You freak out about bills every single month, that's at the top of the deck. I just don't know if little Susie's going to be okay in first grade. She will be. It's first grade. They play most of the day. It will be. It will be. But it's seventh grade. I know seventh grade is tough. But they're the ones causing problems. They'll be okay. Because all the stuff that you don't think they talk about, they talk about. You just don't know it. Not my baby boy. Yes, your baby boy. Your baby boy's not a baby boy anymore. Your baby boy is a full adolescent, He's my baby. He's not. Those other kids, no, that was your kid. Whatever you freak out about is at the top of the list. So I have to ask this question as we end this thing, as you take home. What's at the top of your deck of cards? That's what you're freaking about. That's essentially where you put your identity. You want to know what you've let, all these feelings and emotions that have come up? That's where your identity is found in. And if it's not found in God saying, I'm your shepherd, if it's not his peace and his mercy and his joy and his wisdom to know that, hey, everything's going to be okay. It's not ignoring all the other stuff in life. It's just putting him at the top and saying everything else is going to be okay because he's at the top of the deck of cards. Yeah, middle school sucks for everybody. It sucked for us too, by the way. We just don't remember it. Maybe you do. Maybe you have that much PTSD. You're still like, yep, still remember being 12. Yeah, it sucked. It does. It does for guys, it does for girls. It's just never fun by any stretch of the imagination. So no matter what it is. But when God's at the top of the deck of cards, everything else follows suit. Because no matter what it is, you can't achieve your identity. It won't work. It won't work. It will not be lasting. It may help for a season, and it may fit within the culture, because that's might be what gets rewarded. But what about next year when culture changes? What about when you change and things shift? In one workplace, this was okay, and the next workplace, it's not. And you're like, oh, now I got to reinvent myself. Over here, I was the workplace class clown, and everybody liked all my jokes. But over here, they're a little bit more serious. And next thing they know, now I can't be that guy. So I got to reinvent myself. I got to put something else on the deck of cards. It just doesn't last. God's saying, I want to be your shepherd. But so many times we just don't want to take his direction. We don't want to let him name us. We want to name ourselves. And eventually we lose that game. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you that you named us. You are our ultimate shepherd, and we are sheep. And a lot of times that is not fun, that is not popular, but Lord, that is true. We are absolutely helpless without you. So Lord, I ask that you would guide us, as we are helpless and we need you. That is not a bad thing to say, Lord. We need the God of the universe to help us.